Thanks for joining us for PolitiPod Live. For political talk, I'm Tom Bickle,
And I'm Matt Nisanoff.
and we're here to discuss political events. Tonight we'll cover the White House demolition for a ballroom, the No Kings March, and the latest on Ukraine, Tesla, and giant paychecks, gunplay, and Epstein-related news. We will also have our segments on international news and fascism creeps. But first, we'll start with Matt. Take it away.
How about a little bit of a demolition? We've got the White House East Wing being demolished. Apparently, just about the same sort of business wisdom that he's shown in his past. He's applied it to the White House, and he's gone full force in the demolition. They're talking about the entire East Wing being demolished within the week. And apparently, there's two big questions. One, who's actually paying for this? And the other question is, what are they going to do there? I mean, everybody talks about a ballroom, and that's certainly what he wants because it's what he's familiar with, and he likes having a place where people have to dress up to see him. But the catch is, there's actually no building plan. So they've started demolition. They'll be done with demolition in the week, and they don't have a plan as to what to do with the space once it's there. Perfect casino logic from Donald Trump. And then there's the costs. It's going to cost probably $250 million. The rumors are that it's some of him, that it's him and some of his pals, some of his business pals, are getting together to foot the bill for this. But that's a problem in and of itself, isn't it? Because it's part of the White House. And the White House is a federal building, a historical property. Is he going to build this and then claim that since he paid for it, he has to live in it? Does he get to claim that it's additional storage for documents when he leaves? Is he going to say that it can't be recovered from him even if they pay him back? We don't know. We don't have any answers to any of that. Um, so what do you thought? What are your thoughts, Tom? What do you think about demolition of the White House?
I mean, listen, I feel a few things about it, and it's hard to articulate. As numbed and um, as numbed and jaded as I am to politics, as one must be these days, if one is to retain much of one's sanity, you have to learn to let go and just sort of take a deep breath and keep moving, uh, because of all the just injustices and barriers. What do you call it? Not barriers, but it's a B word. Uh, when you have boundaries, there it is. All the boundary crossing, you have to thicken your skin. But and as much as I'm not really super stars and stripey patriotic, I like what the country's found. The country's best ideals, I think I'm really excited about. But as far as the red, white, and blue, I don't go out for it that hard. Um, and yet, seeing the White House just shattered, just destroyed. It looked like it'd been bombed out, uh, with no warning to the people, or I hope nobody was in the can in there at the time. So abrupt was their construction. No, this is demolition. It's destruction, and I shouldn't be surprised. Anyway, as jaded and as much as I didn't think I gave a shit about the White House, seeing it get just laid flat, was it affected me. It bothered me. Who told this motherfucker he could do that? Um, and Anyway, so it bothered me more than I thought it would, and it bugs me. Um, just 2 weeks ago or a week ago, not long ago, he said that they weren't going to do any. It would just be new construction, no destruction of existing, and here we are. And you
One,
mentioned the cost. I don't know where you got the figures from, and I don't mean to just doubt you, but the only thing I've heard reported is what he said. It's 200. It's 250. It's 300. And we're just walking around using that number. That's what it's going to cost. Who knows if it's accurate at all? He says a lot of stuff, Matt. He said the construction wouldn't, knock down any existing building, and they, it's getting flatter all the time. It looks like hell, and they didn't make any effort to preserve anything for posterity. If you've ever been to a museum uh, and seen things, you realize the value of artifacts and physical remnants. Like I say, if somebody was in the John at the time, they're probably laying under sheetrock as we speak. That's how it seemed careless the whole thing was.
Yeah, you're
Um,
absolutely right about that. Careless is definitely the word, and or thoughtless even, because that's what he does. And
and,
also,
and
you're right about you're right about the costs. He never does costs well. He never quite bothers himself with the details, and he most certainly never pays. So there's a lot of issues along the question of costs and payment and what's going to actually happen and where it's going to come from. And so you're right. I agree with you 110% on that. There has been renovation work before, as you pointed out, that's been done. And in 90 years ago, they even took out part of the east wing. But the point of it then was they built the Oval Office. So they used it for renovating it to make it more useful as a workspace.
right.
And that makes sense.
One thing I can tell you is known for certain, and that is we will foot the bill. You say there's nothing known about the costs. That's the one thing we do know.
Yeah, yeah. In the end, it'll be shuffled off on us, like just about every other cost and uh, everything else that he's going to shuffle off onto us later.
Exactly, the whole thing. I mean, it's the people's White House. It's the people's money doing it. He's suing the people for prosecuting. That's a whole different issue. We're broaching a different issue, but um, anyway, he's unloading the our country like it's off the back of a truck. He's destroying, exponentially more than he's gaining from it. But he's willing to burn money if it keeps his house warm, or something like that.
Right. Or even makes him look slightly good in
Right,
his
right.
mind. Yeah.
So
And
it's
speaking
trouble.
of,
I
yeah,
hope
yeah,
I hope it's results in some criminal charges for everybody everywhere in this administration.
that would, that's the sort of thing that happens 20 years after the fact when they put together a committee and decide that, oh, yeah, well, really,
Yeah,
we shouldn't have let him do that.
if ever.
But of course they will. Yeah. So he'll get away with it, at least in the short term.
I hate to hear you say it out loud, but I can't. I'll stop you when you're wrong. How about that?
Yeah,
We
right.
don't apparently we don't prosecute these people anymore. I mean,
Well, or ever. I mean,
yeah,
the whole peace process in Ireland with the Good Friday Accords, and one of the British soldiers who's coming up on charges for some of the things he did, is just getting to the court now, and
hmm,
it's 2025. And the Good Friday Accords were back in Clinton's term, so that's how long it takes for things to work their way around
right.
in some cases. And there's a whole list of other things that he should be hauled up on charges for,
I mean,
and certainly
absolutely, and it grows every day.
culpable for. And ICE is one of them on the continuing Trump's war on America. The focus has shifted for ICE to include New York City. They came up to New York City recently within the past couple of days, and they
Yeah,
went to an area called Canal Street, which is up in Manhattan, and it's a place where a lot of people set up to as vendors. They sell, frankly, it's all the knockoffs. It's the Louis Vuitton, whatever Louis Vuitton sells, and
right.
knockoff whatever is Polo still a thing? I don't know. Ralph Lauren. I'm out of the loop on it, honestly. But all the guys who are selling the fakes are up there on Canal Street, and the vendors are everybody knows. It's not in any way fraud because everyone knows it. Everyone knows
Right.
what it is. Everybody knows what it is, and they like the price, so they go and they get it. And apparently, ICE was out there, and they were really roughing up the people. And this is the sort of stuff that you think that they want. They want there to be fights in the streets. They want there to be.
Right.
They want that there'll be pictures they can show of people reacting to them and causing violence. But the catch is there was only one of them that was wounded, and it was half dozen or a dozen people who were just going about their business or who were on on the sales teams out there
Yeah.
who got hurt. So all of a sudden, it's not so interesting to show the videos. Um, but they were out there. They caused the trouble. This is another part of the war in America that we're seeing, and it's expanding from Chicago last, and now as it continues there, it's making its way into New York City, and that's on top of Los Angeles, Portland, Washington D.C. We'll see where else they move it to. One place that they probably won't move it to is North Carolina, although his sticky little fingers are in there too. And the president of the North Carolina State Senate has apparently, working with Trump all along the way, but no surprise. But he has helped to set up some redistricting that's happened in the state. And as if it's not already enough, there's uh, it's 10 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and one seat that you might consider a possible swing district, meaning it could be a Democrat, could be a Republican. Well, they've redistricted things, so it will be 11 seats Republican and 3 Democrats. And the graphic right there shows you something that they've done, which is that NC1, that means North Carolina's first congressional district, and the other is North Carolina's third congressional district. Third district is obviously very red. The people in that area are very. When they vote Republican. They're very hardcore, and in this case, you can kind of show by it kind of shows by the depth of the red. If you happen to have a color streaming going on, it's very red. And then the light pink and the one in NC1 is because actually it sometimes kind of goes Democratic. Sometimes there's a Democrat who will win up there, and actually there's a Democrat there who is contemplating what to do because, and you see those numbers, meaning that that's how much more they went for Trump this past election, and NC1 was a plus 3.2, which for North Carolina I assume is disappointing, and NC3, which was over 20 points towards Trump. Even though it was 3 points Trump, this Democrat still won the congressional seat. So he's a pretty strong candidate. And to try to mess with him, or he was that one possible swing district. So they've redistricted things in this 2026 proposed redistricting, whereas you see it makes things a little more red in both districts, or a little more red in NC1 to help try to get this guy booted, and then a little less red in NC3, but still over 13%
Right.
Donald Trump if the same vote pattern were to happen again. So, in other words, a safe district for Trump to win both cases, but they might be able to pick off a Democrat in the congressional delegation, and that's what this whole thing of redistricting in the middle of the decade is all about. Is because they're trying to uh, do anything they can, and uh, so this is a graphic explanation to see what's happening. And he did. The North Carolina Senate president sold out on the redistricting because he wanted to get a Trump endorsement for the next time he runs for office. So that's what that's the price that it took for him to do this. Obviously, willing to do it on at the drop of a dime. But here his big thing is that he got an endorsement. Um, then looking outside of North Carolina, going a little bit north, there's some news out of Virginia that continues the Trump's war on America. In this case, as you may know, he's been targeting universities and keeping university administrators busy, usually with demands for millions of dollars. And the University of Virginia actually appears to have placated the DOJ attack, and has said that the person who was head of the school chose to resign instead of continuing to fight them. They liked that. But then they also promised that the other part of it was we won't pay money, but we will report quarterly to the DOJ to show that we're not using DEI standards. That to prove to the federal government that DEI hires are not there, then the trade-off was that they wouldn't be hit with having to pay X number of $1 million. Uh, I don't know what you're thinking about these kind of things or what's going on. We'll talk some more about in our other segment, Fascism Creeps, about some other examples. But of these three, is there anything that's on your mind?
The redistricting, it just keeps getting uglier and uglier, and you have to get ugly with it, or you're left behind. So, welcome to human nature, I guess. It's unfortunate it's come this way. I think we used to travel a higher road. Not that I'm that nostalgic, but it couldn't get. It's getting lower. That's for sure. The road that is. And I think colleges, I wish they would tell the Trump administration to pound sand, and they're going to do whatever they want to do. But federal money is federal money, and it's either that or lop off entire limbs of your organization. So, a rock and a hard place. But it's pretty terrible. I think they should fight it. So far, the courts have held some weight. The Congress has, as soon as he leaned on it, they fell over. They're not holding any weight. The Supreme Court's not doing us any favors, but the regular rank and file courts seem to be still on this planet and in this dimension of reality, whereas the Trump administration is not. So I wish they would avail themselves of that. These places don't. Nobody wants to lose funding or money, but these places have money. Many of them. They can hire a couple of lawyers and take things to court. Risk it for the biscuit. For God's sake, this country needs you. And I want to see that anywhere I can. And so it's disappointing when we don't. I guess that's all I had to say about that as a man.
Surely. Well, and that kind of brings the other side of the argument up, as it were, and of course, the aftermath and now of the No Kings marches and how they went. How did they go in your area?
Oh man, I went out to in my little town. I don't want to be too personal about it, but where I live in a small town, and like 200 people showed up, which we're lucky we have a little protest that I never go to because I'm a bad citizen. But there's 5 or 10 people out there. Many of them a little longer in the tooth, but they're out there and they're doing it, and they hold flags like peace and freedom and nothing real partisan. It's just red, white, and blue, and yay, good stuff. But they when they usually have 5 to 10 people, they had about 200, and it was really encouraging. I decided I wanted to try to be a part of something a little bigger, so I went the next town over, and we ended up having about 500 there. And so that's someplace I only protested once before, and I think it was the No Kings last time. Anyway, so good turnout, good showing. Everything was peaceful, just like apparently most if not all places across the country. And It was nice to see. It was encouraging. It was empowering. I think a lot of people felt that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was also, well, I went to one in the city, so it was a larger group of folks. I mean, we were all over the. They shut down the roads, and the people were from building to building in the streets. We were all out, and it was all. You know what really impressed me was that it wasn't just a protest. That people were incredibly good natured, laughing. There were things going on. People were doing little side things on the sidewalks, and people would watch. The people marching down the street would look and watch in these little side gigs going on the sidewalks, and get a laugh out of them. And it was such a joyous thing, as much as it was making a point. The numbers made the point, and I think that the fact that it was not done in rage, which would frankly be perfectly justified since
Right.
we are where we are, but it wasn't because people got they understood that the point is that you want to right now you want to show it, and you don't want to blow it by going off into a huff and a rage and doing things that will only allow justification for other things. I will say that I did hear that there was a guy dressed up as Trump, and apparently not at the rally I was at, but he was at another rally, and he did kind of get roughed up, and that's a
Oh
shame.
no.
Um,
Really?
yeah, I'm not exactly certain which city it even was. We had a guy standing up there on top of some rail. There were at one point the sidewalk had some railings, and
Yeah.
there was a Trump guy standing on top of the railings, and people were just laughing because of the stuff he was saying. You know, a
Sure.
person in a huge chicken suit came over, and he said, "Oh, you're wearing my other suit." And he was obviously doing it. He's obviously a comedic person, and so people were enjoying that. Nobody said anything negative to him. They were all just laughing and walking by. But apparently, at another place, that wasn't the case, and that's oh well, that's a shame. But his response was to create an AI video showing him in a fighter jet and releasing poop that dropped on some protesters. I actually think one of them was a particular person that he doesn't like, some journalist or something. I don't remember the fellow's name, but that was that was his response. That was taking the high road, I guess. In that he was in a jet. Maybe that's the for him. That
Literally
works for him.
high. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you couldn't count on him to take the figuratively high road at any point.
too true. Too true.
Yeah, I mean
Yes.
that's awful. And it's low class, and it reminds me of 9, 10, 11 years ago when Trump hit the scene, and he went from anything more than an NBC, you know, reality show star and alleged real estate mogul. And I tried to read about him in the press, and I'd read any number, and he was, unfortunately, he was everywhere. So it was easy to read a lot of things. But I would see this vein of, and it wasn't always clear, of people would be repulsed by him, but nobody ever really said necessarily why. They'd say he was a jerk, but they wouldn't really go into it. And just over time, the fullness, the layers, the the whole, it just has time to hit your palate, and you really get the full effect over time of just what is wrong with this person. He's incredibly antisocial. He's incredibly selfish. He's entirely uh I can say not every pervert is a bad person. There's nothing wrong with a little perversion in your life sometimes, if you keep things healthy. But this guy is a pervert, and of an untold order. All we see is the tip of the scumbag iceberg, and there's so much in the depths. You can just tell um, by the way he does his business deals, by the way he conducts himself personally. Anyway, so I'm, and yet this is kind of a new low with the fighter jet shitting on American peaceful protesting Americans. He has no regard for the First Amendment, no regard for uh, speech in
Dissent.
your mind. Yeah, dissent,
Yeah,
exactly. Free
anything
speech,
dissent.
none of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I shouldn't be surprised, but the guy keeps on giving, doesn't he?
Yep, a new low every day. Ugh, well, we will, as mentioned before, we do have a segment of fascism creeps that we'll get to in a little bit, and certainly have a few more things to say about him and his activities, predilections. But first, we have another segment, and the first segment tonight is international news. We're gonna hit a couple of things going on, and to let you know what we've heard and what our thoughts on them are. For instance, down in Uruguay, it's the first nation in that region in South and Central America, both South and Central America, that has made the legal decision that euthanasia is an acceptable practice now. So that is a big step. Um, most of the nations there, I think it's fair to say, have a heavy influence from religion and
Mhm.
would not think of this. So the fact that it has happened is certainly newsworthy. Certainly would like to flush that out a little bit, find out what's behind it. Maybe we should talk about each one of these as we go. Do you have anything on Uruguay?
Uh, I'm behind on my Uruguay studies. Please lead on.
No worries. There is the UN coming out to say that CO2 levels hit new highs this past year. So climate change is, no matter how you try to ignore it, how much you want to say it's not happening, clearly it's happening. As far as the science behind it. Uh, the real thing is that it is happening here. We have another piece of evidence from the past, what, 100 years, showing that there's a problem here. And so we've got new highs from the past year. And that is just in time for the COP30 down in Brazil. Speaking of South America, they're keeping it regional. Down in Brazil, they're going to have COP30, which is the big meeting of the nations leaders to come together and talk about climate change. This year, it's November 6th through 21st, I believe, and that's down in Brazil. So we'll see everybody going down there, and I'm sure that, well, except I'm sure Trump will have a reason to not go, or maybe he'll send Marco Rubio or some headliner like that to join all of the leaders who actually show up.
He's going to shit in a shoebox and send that. For, that's what he's going to do. It's what he always does. He always, when it comes to climate change, he goes out of his way because he knows it plays good with his base, people who huff gasoline to get high. Um, yeah, so he's gonna do something rude. He'll send somebody. I don't know. He'll send somebody just terrible. He'll send Paris Hilton or you
Scott
know
Baio.
the corpse of Gary Coleman. I don't know. Yeah, Scott Baio, right? So that's what I expect, and I rarely have I been disappointed from these folks.
So in my mind, the real question is Greta Thunberg has actually taken ships from one place to another in order to not be using air travel and
Ah,
reducing
right.
carbon footprint, and that's to her credit. She's walking the walk. She's not just saying things. She's really
Yeah, I suppose so.
showing that she believes what she is talking about. Brazil's quite a long way from Scandinavia, though. I don't know if she's going to be making it down there for it or not. I mean, maybe she will. I think that will be actually more interesting. I mean, she's already said that she's made her point. She knows what she's been very blunt about what she thinks about world leaders and their decisions on this issue. And it's not going to be something new for her to do, although she could use it as a stage to make the point, whatever the most current points are. But she also may just say, look, I've said all I need to say to these guys. They're not going to listen to me. They're not going to take action, and they're certainly not going to do anything for the environment. So why should I bother? Why should I go at all? So we'll see come November if that is the case or not.
Absolutely.
Moving, yeah, moving on to Russia. Um,
Always good for a laugh, old Russia.
I am on a second floor with windows. I just want to be careful. Russia, a couple of stories actually. There was, I think it was last week, where actually during their trying to shoot things down in Ukraine, they actually crossed fire and shot down their own jet. One of the Russian jets that was flying on the mission was shot down, and that's. Are we at a point where it's so indiscriminate that they don't even care if they take down their own equipment and their own soldiers?
Right.
Could be, uh, but the larger story in that is, of course, that there's been some movement towards a ceasefire, possibly. The U.S. has been both talking about providing long range missiles that Ukraine has been asking for. Go ahead.
Hey, Matt, before we get too far from it, I want to ask that what there is a wry element of humor to it, but the Russian plane that the Russians shot down, did they? Do you know if the pilot survived? I didn't see that in the reporting.
I don't know that for a fact. I seem to remember one of the reports saying that uh, he had jumped out before that he parachuted out, but I can't remember the source for that.
Hmm. Okay. Well, it just adds some color to the story, and wanted to wanted to know if you knew.
Right, right,
Sorry,
fair enough.
please. I crushed your groove, but I didn't want to go too far without asking.
No worries, no worries. And we do want to get through them. So, but so the Ukraine has been asking for long range missiles. Washington at one point said, "Yeah, we're going to do that." Now they're backing off of that, but that's a typical Trump flip flop. There's nothing
Exactly.
surprising there.
It's
That's
something he said.
exactly
That's
on.
all.
Next week he'll talk about how he doesn't even want a ballroom. But this is,
Right.
yeah, for right now.
What
Then
idea was that?
yeah, for this week in the Ukraine, the flip is a double flip because he is also saying that he's he brings eternal peace and negotiates things, and he's stopped so many wars, and it's I think it's in the double digits now that he says he's stopped, and some of them might have even been real, so that's neat. But he's saying that he's going to do that with Russia and Ukraine. The latest is that he says that so part of the territories that have been disputed during this is that the Russians have taken part of Ukraine. There's a particular region called Donbass, which has been the residents have been pro-Russian to a large extent. So the most recent thing is Putin is saying, "No, you got to give us Donbass," and the retort now is that uh, Trump is saying, "We'll split Donbass, and you have to stop with the war stuff, and we have to have an immediate ceasefire." So that's what we're working on now. So that was within the last 24 hours that this demand for a ceasefire from Putin or for to Putin from Trump has been made, and we'll see if that's as effective as the ceasefire in Gaza, which fell apart in 48 hours. I
I
think that
thought it
was
was faster than that, but yeah.
24. So we'll get to watch that now. China, moving slowly down the map towards China, they actually have been arresting some of their own leadership. That the Communist Party has arrested and expelled even the number two military leader and a number of other folks. They've been expelled from the party and are facing investigation on corruption charges. So, what does that say? Very interesting. I have to see what happens. This is not the first time that this has been moved by this president, but we'll see what actually happens of it, and we'll see what the results are.
Maybe somebody's uncle just came into power and swept out a, it could be as simple as something like that, and just cleared house. Who knows? I don't know these things.
Right, and frankly, it could be true. It could just be the fact that it's true.
Right.
We'll have to see and what happens. But for it to include such a high-ranking member of the military and the party, that's an interesting twist that
Absolutely.
will make a great book one day. Off to France we go, back up into Europe. We're talking about the Louvre. Is it Louvre or Louvre?
It's Louvre, but the "r" at the end is super gentle, almost like you're breathing it. Louvre.
Okay, I'll work on it.
Right. It takes practice.
Check in next week.
Right.
But the heist that you may have heard, there was a big heist there. One morning they opened up, and about 15 minutes after opening, a couple of people went in and came out with a lot of stuff. It was $88 million or 88 million euros worth of jewelry, including even a piece that was a piece from the Emperor Napoleon's collection. So they really got away with quite an impressive heist, and also in the beginning of the day, someone literally they waited. They didn't break in overnight. They didn't break in before. They waited for it to open and then went in and stole the stuff. So that
Right.
impresses me in a way.
Yeah, they picked the hard level on the video game. They picked the expert level and went with it. Yeah.
Good for you.
I read a little bit about this story, a little more than I did about Uruguay, and I got to tell you, it's fascinating. It seems like the Louvre is an easier heist than you would expect, being a historic level, not only a historic castle, but one of the world's great repositories of old, art from antiquity to the 1800s. Um, and it's got worse security than your local 7-Eleven. It's fascinating. I read that there wasn't there was only cameras here and there. There weren't really cameras, where this key thing happened and that key thing happened. How do you not have webcams or something just from hell to breakfast covering every square inch of the place? Are you kidding me? So I'm fascinated by that. I cannot believe that I guess some localized alarm didn't go off, but uh, the overall, like, the alarm throughout the place went off to alert guards to sequester people away and keep them safe. So I mean that's good, but an alarm didn't go off. There's not enough cameras. Apparently, no guards. I don't know. I didn't see anything about weapons. I don't know why the guards. I guess the guards ushered everybody out. Uh, but did not challenge these guys. I mean, they were only there 7 minutes, so I've heard it said. And you can challenge somebody in 7 minutes. It only takes 10 seconds to go, hey, man, just a moment there. So I'm just amazed at the failures, the cascade of failures. I can't believe it. I don't. understand. I heard somebody propose that confidently that it was an inside job. Maybe so. Um, they still don't have suspects in hand, to my knowledge. Which again, amazing. Who's in charge of this? Patel. um,
Well,
anyway,
really, especially if it is an inside job, then you'd think they'd
yeah,
know
Cash
who they were
Patel.
looking for. Hey, who didn't show up to work the next day?
I
Well,
mean,
that would be the top of the list.
right,
But we
right.
don't. But we don't know that that's true. We don't know if it was an inside thing or not. But yeah, exactly. I mean, people have cameras going all day long. People are recording their meals and breakfasts and taking the dog for a walk and doing skits on the couch.
Get a couple of
Seriously.
ring cameras, fellas. For Pete's
Exactly.
sake, they're not that expensive. Even a cheap crap webcam, peanuts, peanuts. It's the goddamn Mona Lisa, Matt. You know what I mean? It's the crowning of Napoleon. All these things, priceless, and there they go. Um, I still don't understand it. I can scarcely believe it. And these guys out the window and on to. I heard that they try. I heard. I did not. I don't think I read. I don't know how I heard it. That they tried to light the lift truck that got them up to that balcony. They tried to light it on fire, and they were dissuaded and shooed away by, I think, museum security. Maybe they were pursued. Anyway, it's going to make for just a banger feature film or a terrific comedy made for TV. Something. This is some bumbling Inspector Clouseau stuff.
We'll see. We'll see what they do.
Don't see.
Um, Actually, there's another story out of France as well. Uh,
Yes.
Former, is it Prime Minister? He was Sarkozy,
President.
Nicolas
Isn't he a
Sarkozy.
president?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems that during his campaigns, he'd wound up taking money from our old friend Muammar Gaddafi. I don't know if people even would recognize the name nowadays, but Muammar Gaddafi, not exactly the list of, uh, you know, Santa was not visiting Gaddafi.
Not
He
a
was
great guy.
not one of the good children. But
Lump of coal for sure.
exactly, one big goal for old Gaddafi. But he certainly had a lot of money, and apparently Sarkozy's campaign, some deal was struck, and in the campaign in the early 2000s, some money wound up in Sarkozy's campaign. That has all resulted in Sarkozy going to jail, just being gone through the whole process and the legal process, and
Five
he is
years.
in the clinker for 5 years over that. So that's look, that's a consequence. It's good to see leaders being held to account. That there is some form of accountability for those who are in elected positions. It's perhaps something we should put a little flag by for later
Put a pin
down
in
the
that.
road
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
We can prosecute criminal politicians. Huh. Write that down.
And speaking of, this brings up our old friend again in Donald Trump. You may have heard, I'm sure you've heard the news story that back down to South America, Argentina, there's apparently he wants to help his friends who are there and those who are in power. And so in the upcoming election, for some reason, he's involved himself and said that he's going to give $20 billion. But it's all based on whether or not his friend wins the election. If his friend doesn't win, they're not going to get the money. Uh,
Don't we
there's
have oligarchs here at home that he can shower with pork? We got to go to other countries. I thought we're not, you know, we've got our own fat cats starving here at home. How does he go to another country? I don't understand. There is no constituency which he will not screw over. None. He did it to Putin. I didn't think he would do it to Putin. He did it to Putin. He disappoints everybody he comes in contact with. No one is immune.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 20 million would go a long way in child cancer research, funds that he canceled. So, 20 billion, there's a couple of ideas, things that he could do with that here. There's a number of federal employees who could be uh, paid and back paid after the shutdown is over. There's a
It's
couple
almost
things
like
he could
he's
do.
taking it out on the beef industry for his failure as a steak salesman. I feel like he's just ruining there's no reason. It does no good except that it enriches somebody who's already rich in another country and the supposed motive that he's going to need somewhere to flee to. So he's greasing some palms in advance with government money. This is all, again, he's doing it all on our tab. He doesn't even spend his campaign funds for this shit. He just spends our money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all to his own aggrandizement. Yeah, there's been another political movement that wound up in whose leaders wound up in Argentina, I think, if you look at
Hmm.
a historical record somewhere down there.
Sounds
So
familiar.
yeah, some sort of a precedent set. And actually, there's even rumors that the amount will be going up. That it's 20. The 20 billion was the first outreach. Now it's up to 40. Could go up to 120. We'll have to see when the actual election takes place as to how much. There's a little roulette wheel going around, and until the election, it keeps going, and maybe it will stop here, and maybe it will stop there. All have different amounts on them, and we'll see what they actually are promised in the end before the election. See if his friend and their friends are elected. Um,
I've caught some of the coverage of this unnecessary beef price debacle. Prices, I guess, are high right now for America's cattlemen, and this is the time when you make good money if you can sell your beef. And Trump has told them in the press today, you need to lower your prices. You need to lower, just stop making so much money. If you're making money, I want you to stop that. For me, I want you to put less money, less gas in your tank, less food on your table, and less money profit in your pocket. And and these businesses, agriculture can be very rough. You make it when you make it rain when you can, so that the bad years you can survive, I guess. I don't know how much risk there is in the business anymore, but I'm sure there's some. And so for him to come in at a time when it's relatively raining, when it's good times, and for him to go, just, you know what, don't don't collect that the money that is cyclical and you'll probably won't see again for a generation. Just for me and my fellow Argentinians, just just take one for the Trumper, will you? And I don't know how many of these constituents he has to burn before they understand, but he's counting. He's on his way. He'll find out, I presume.
oh,
Anyway,
exactly. We'll all find out, but they'll have to pay the price, is what it is. For those that are, I mean, as you point out, there's a lot of industrial farming, and that's not going to be as um, that's not going to face jeopardy to the degree that the small time farmers, who are a small percentage now because the industries have moved in and taken up the business, but there are farmers that are smaller and that are out there still, and they're the ones who will be decimated by this sort of stuff first. But they're also the
right.
ones who all voted for Trump. So
Well,
there you
and
go.
a cynical person who knows anything about business, and I only have the cynicism, not the business sense, but a cynical person might say that when these people go out of business, A, you can buy them up, and B, there won't be competition anymore. So big companies will get bigger, smaller guys will just blip out like the little tiny lights on the horizon they are. Uh, is that a good thing? I don't think so.
No, we'll see if they can remember that when they get to the ballot box next time. And we'll wrap up the international news with the two quick bits. One,
Yes.
the European Union has said that has made a decision that they've for a long time they were getting gas from Russia. It was a big deal in setting it up at the time. They were trying to have better relationships with Russia, and there was a concerted effort by the European Union to include Russia as a partner and a fellow nation, and so they started getting all the pipes to run through to Europe. And hey, that was wonderful. But this is a recent decision this past week or so has been that the EU nations have said we got to stop buying gas from these people. This is ending. So they have a plan. They're going to end all of the Russian gas by 2028. So that's a good decision. They have a timeline they can follow so that they can make certain that they are providing in other ways because that is a source of energy and you got to have it to take care of people who need heat and people who need food, etc. So you can't just cut it off immediately. But this is a good idea. This is a good way to do it.
Absolutely. I want to say thank God that the Europeans have swung in and did not wilt and did not falter like our president and our country has when Joe Biden just slipped further and further uh, into his age, and then Trump and Biden, I think, was anyway. It was a stupid thing for me to say, but I mean, with the administration, uh, especially currently, not holding up their end of any bargain, of not staying strong and tough on Russia with sanctions and with other support for Ukraine. And it's, embarrassing their president in the White House. Why have the guy there if you're just going to kick him in the ass, unless that's the point? And it's disturbing and depressing. Anyway, thank God the Europeans have uh, stood strong where and when they have, and shown some leadership and some independence. And when this country didn't live up to its best ideals, they still stuck by Ukraine. They could have walked away. They could have capitulated in ways that they have not. They're I don't know the long and short of it, but it seems like they're still materially supporting Ukraine, for example, and staying strong on Russia and getting their energy converted, or not converted, but diverted to it from different suppliers than Russia in what, 2.5 years? That's amazingly fast. We've been at war for how long with, or not we, they've been, Ukraine and Russia have been at war for how long now?
It's been 4 years or
So
was it
I get,
4 years?
it's not exactly immediate. It's not exactly instantaneous, but excuse me, that's a pretty short timeline. And I'm just really glad to see that they are sticking it out, because wish, and I'm embarrassed that we're not.
There you go. Another thing that could be slightly embarrassing would be if you were to go across the sea and set up a peace deal and announce how you've brought peace to the Middle East and eternal peace at that. And then the 20-point plan you have to bring peace eternally winds up falling apart in 24, 48 hours, which is what's happened in Gaza. The ceasefires collapsed. There's a lot of um, apparently, Hamas didn't pull through on some of the promises for the first point of the 20-point plan. Israel used that as an excuse and went back in militarily, back to square one.
Right.
So we'll see the big peacemaker. We'll see if he can reestablish or reassert his peace plan. We'll
Yeah,
see
and
how
I'm
that goes.
reminded of a quote I told you about in one of our recent shows. When I was doing that sort of middle deep dive into Trump, below those 10 years ago, one of the things I read that stuck with me is uh, with Trump, negotiations begin after you sign the contract. And it's the same thing here. He likes to announce, "Oh, I've done it. I've done the thing," handshakes all around. And then, you go to drive off in your used car and, you know, it explodes. It's the same thing here. He pronounced it done. It's all done deal. And then it's not a deal and it's not done. And and we're pretty much, it's like nothing good ever happened in the first place. So it sucks, and it keeps on sucking in that way.
Yeah, and not a surprise,
And
at
all
least.
too familiar.
Yeah. Speaking of him and his friends, there's Elon Musk, who apparently he um, made up with or made some sort of repairs to their relationship through the shooting of Charlie Kirk. And Elon Musk has his own thing going on. Apparently, there was recently a pay package that was set out by the shareholders, or the company decided that they were going to give him a golden parachute of enormous and outrageous amount, and the
Was it a trillion?
shareholders say
Was it a trillion?
it was, yeah, it was something trillion or some yes, in the trillions, and absolutely ridiculous in any stretch of the imagination. Um, and the shareholders are supposed to vote on that. We'll see. There's been a lot of agitation saying, "What the hell are you doing? You know, how do you justify this? And how is it that you'd want to do this thing?" Um, I don't know. What do you think that maybe he's just hurting for cash and set up the deal, or do you think that maybe it's a little outrageous and inappropriate and unacceptable?
Well, I think it's obviously over the top. I think, but this is a guy who swings big, talks big, doesn't always back it up big. So of course he's going to make the big ask. That doesn't it doesn't surprise me in that way as far as personality wise. I think he's a weaker person now than he's been. He's been steadily weakening since his high and mighty days with Doge. Ever since then, he's he picked a fight with Trump, and now they're talking about divesting even more, the government or the American government divesting with all their Elon friendly products. I heard something about that in the news, and Tesla's Tesla's cars. They had another recall of what 130,000 vehicles. How many do they have? 140,000 on the road. I mean, that's a lot of vehicles again, and it's a battery problem. And those things are all battery anyway. So I feel like the guy is not really killing it, not really firing on all cylinders, and maybe I don't know. Can a man worth half a trillion dollars really circle the drain? If so, he might be, and it seems like he's trying to goose some juice out of this his company uh, before something drastic happens, before things go truly in the toilet. That's the sense I get of it. That's my suspicion. I don't know anything.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Neither one of us are shareholders, so we're not going to be there.
I don't even have a Twitter account anymore.
um, well, so we'll have to see what the stockholders decide and if they're able
Right?
to come to a reasonable conclusion. That brings us to the conclusion of that, and we will move on to our other segment. It was promised earlier that we'd get to the fascism creeps segment that
Yes,
we've
sir.
done before, and here we are again. The
We're never far
continuation.
from it, are we?
Exactly. It creeps quite precisely,
Yep.
consistently. Speaking of Trump's war on America, there's the backing from the courts that allows this sort of thing. There's different decisions made by different judges constantly, but the most recent one is that the appeals court judge has backed the use of troops in U.S. cities, allowing troops into Portland, and saying that there's a discussion of whether or not that was all right or not. Apparently, the appeals court feels it is. So the justification of it is the real problem. And will also spur him on to do it wherever else he wants. And he has, off to New York.
I really have trouble with this binary flip flopping where It's legal. It's not legal. It's legal. It's not legal. I can't keep doing this, Matt. It's the herking and the jerking is killing me. Uh, and you would think that law is supposed to be more of a science than an art. You would think that it's it's either black or it's white. Um, I read, excuse me, yeah, I follow Jay Quo, last name Kuo, uh, and he's a journalist with a legal background. And I want to say he put it like this: there are two actions against two judicial decisions preventing National Guard being deployed in this area, or was it Chicago? Anyway, there's two actions, and the appeals court sort of repealed one of them, but the other is still in place. That is the judge's intent, who had laid it down, that you can't do this in any way, shape, or form. And then there was another concern that was what the appeals court referred to when they acquiesced in this latest development. So uh, there's still, as I understand it, legal restrictions from sending these troops. But when has that stopped a fella?
He certainly does not particularly care. He will do it, and they'll stop him, but they'll have to find a way to actually physically stop him because he won't stop just by words alone, even if it is the rule of law. And speaking of that, I mean, he's another thing he does is attack his own people. He's, as you pointed out, he doesn't particularly care who he attacks as long as he's shown as the person who is doing the attacking, and that makes him feel more important, and that he's on the prowl, I guess you could say. Most recently, a couple of his uh, former employees, Bolton and Comey. Uh, well, so Bolton was indicted, and apparently they said his having classified materials was certain classified materials was illegal, and that's why they've indicted him. And we'll see what actually happens when it comes to the for the case to be heard, which is kind of interesting because he had a bunch of files and down in Mar-a-Lago. He was asked to return them. He didn't. He was asked to return them. He returned some and said that he returned all. And then he was raided and found out to have a whole bunch of stuff that he's not supposed to, including having files in the bathrooms and in the ballroom. Hey, documents in a ballroom. Um,
The pool room, the outhouse.
So yeah, I mean the guy needs a ballroom because he's needed a place for his documents. Um, but we'll see.
As
So
one does.
yeah, that's what it does. Yeah, so we'll see. They have indicted Bolton on these charges on the particular thing of having specific documents, and we'll see what how the case actually unwinds. And frankly, I'd be interested to see how much would actually be able to be applied to his former boss thereafter. And the other case is Comey from the FBI. He's already been, you know, he's
Yeah,
already filed to have the whole thing vacated. It's not an exact surprise, a surprise move from somebody who's been charged, but he's gone and done it. So we'll see if it even gets past the first hurdle.
yeah.
Once a judge actually looks at whatever it is the charges are by a person who a younger person, not necessarily. Well, I guess she was a certain she was a certain sort of lawyer, but it was oh, I don't know what was it, patents or something. It was completely different from criminal prosecution,
Oh, okay.
and not something that would give you the most well-rounded background to do that sort of thing. But she's the only one who would say yes, that she'd pursue the case. So that's the way
Oh,
she
right, right.
got the gig. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I think she was an insurance lawyer or something.
insurance, yeah, thank you. So um, Yeah, it's so strange, and so the judge has actually come out in a couple of times and said, are you sure you're doing this filing the way you want to do it? Are you really want to go and do it this way? You're trying to get to the case in this thing, and so the judge is even sees what's in front of him,
Didn't
and
she
we'll
submit
see.
two filings in place of one, where like she had a duplicate, nearly duplicate case filing, as if maybe an alternate of I don't know, and the judge called her on it, and she was caught out and pretty embarrassed. I thought.
That was the earlier misstep. Yeah, it was there's a thing where one filing mentioned two specific people, and in the other
That's
filing it said three people.
right.
And
Hmm.
the judge was like, "Well, what happened to the third person?" And she's like, "Oh, there is no third person." Yeah, well, but your filing says, "Well, no, actually, my filing says two people." Well, but actually, you have two filings, and they say different things. So
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah, you're absolutely right. It was perhaps a prescient moment as for what else we will see in this case if it continues past the first week.
Can I say I just love everything about these two cases, because as much as I don't want, I don't think Comey did what he's accused of, and so it's like we can't lose, Matt. My Schadenfreude is going to get fed one way or the other, and if Comey goes down, which I don't think he will, then that dickhead suffers, and I don't think deserves to suffer by going to prison, but he has made his choices during these troubled times, and but I look forward to him getting off, as is the conventional wisdom that I'm reading is that he has a very good case to expect to walk away from this relatively whole, except for the expense and stress involved, and not go to jail, as far as we know and can predict. John Bolton, I hear, is more, I guess, is supposedly a stronger case. We shall see. I don't know what that's based on. Maybe it's just something someone said, so you don't want to hang your hat on that. But um, John Bolton thought he could work with Trump and be a part of the administration, and if that jerk, you know, suffers some consequences, I won't be too sad. We'll see. I don't want an innocent man to go to jail, but we'll see what happens, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah. Tuned in with popcorn.
Indeed.
And the next item in Fascism Creeps is a story about Hakeem Jeffries, who is the Democratic leader in the House and a New York representative in Congress. And he's had threats, received terroristic threats. Now they have been deemed terroristic threats by a fellow by the name of Christopher Moynihan, who's 34 years old from Clinton, New York. And you may not recognize the name, but Moynihan's earlier works include being a January 6th terrorist and receiving a Trump pardon for his work on January 6th. This January 6th thing shows that he's willing to follow through on what he says. So when he makes threats towards Representative Jeffries, it should be taken seriously, and apparently is. I expect we will wind up hearing a lot about mental illness in the next couple of weeks before the trial. But we'll have to sit and uh, see. We'll have to see what happens with that. Any thoughts on Mr. Moynihan or Representative Jeffries?
Just the sad confirmation that if you don't punish evil deeds, they will be encouraged. When January 6th happened, it was well regarded in public discourse that if you don't punish an insurrection, it's just practice, and they'll be back. And when you send someone to jail for doing something and then you unsend them to jail, they might get a feeling of I can do whatever the hell I want, friend, and you'll see him again. And these, for people to get into this trouble in the first place, They're either too easily led and gullible, or they're criminals already, or both. So, second time's a charm. Hopefully, he doesn't get pardoned again. I mean, this guy, ICE is still hiring, so I'm sure they've got a spot for him.
Yeah,
Hell, he'll probably be executive material by this light.
yeah, exactly. He'll be pardoned and made captain of the ice team in his neighborhood.
That's right.
Um, and out in California, we talked about little bit about New York. Out in California, there's a story of an attack occurring on I-5. Apparently, there were military Marines in particular, I guess, who were uh, using live ammunition to set out to shoot honors off for a Trump employee, and some of that artillery wound up injuring Chip. Is it California Highway Patrol? It's been a long time since that show was on. But these guys, some chip officers in cars and a motorcycle, were hit, and they were part of an entourage for Vice President. Um,
Catchfucker, yeah.
yeah, what's his name this week?
JD Vance.
JD Vance. JD
Bunch of
Vance. There
head-
you go. And so it strikes me that it's really never a safe time to be a Trump VP. No matter where you go, it can follow you.
That is a more hazardous position than you would expect, really. You think it's a nice white collar, cushy job. No, no, you're never really safe.
Too true.
I don't think he gets a beast to ride around in. That's just for the big man.
There's got to be something for the number two guy.
I mean, I guess so.
They say it's not worth a bucket of warm spit, but there's got to be a car in it somewhere. He'll probably wind up with an airplane. I mean, they gave one. Trump gave one to Noam. I'm sure that that he considers them
Just
much
put it on his tab, Matt.
exactly, exactly. Something
And
else.
I understood that I-5, the highway those munitions were across which they were fired, was shut down by Governor Gavin Newsom, whereas the federal administration said, "Yeah, it's fine. We're going to shoot over the traffic, perfectly safe." And apparently not so safe. Thank God they shut the place down. Who knows? Who knows how many people might have died? And what would we have done then, Matt? We're just standing by watching this guy burn house after house after house on every block from here to Kingdom Come, and we're just watching it happen. Congress is assenting to it as a body. I don't know. If he just starts killing people indiscriminately, which he already is outside the country, and you can't count on it not to come domestic. I don't know. I don't know what it takes to snap people out of it. The threat of death, the fact of it, I don't know. It just maybe it's just my PTSD, but it's hard not to catastrophize and think, because it's going to happen. So much how it already has. People have died. People have been locked away that shouldn't have been. People have been injured that shouldn't have been even approached. There has been irreparable harm done already, and we're just standing by. So having him put a couple of scratches in a CHP bike and some cruiser, it just carries so much portents of how much worse it is a hair's breadth from being.
Fair point. Yeah, fair point indeed. And there's also a not from military forces, but there was a shooter down getting ready to attack the Atlanta airport, and his plans were discovered, and he was stopped. So there's the silver lining in one story at least, where shooters actually stopped. But I don't know. Do you have any additional information on that one?
I saw a report about it, and apparently the guy went in and cased the joint, but they were tipped off ahead of time by someone who knew him. I can't remember if it was a wife or girlfriend or other family member at the moment. It escapes me, but apparently someone had tipped them off, and he was out there in the just inside the entrance to the airport, looking around, getting a lay of the land. Who knows? Seeing where the guards are, seeing where they're not. Had a gun out in the truck, and they wrapped him up on this little mini reconnaissance mission before he had armed himself. Uh, just horror. That could have been so much worse. Thank God somebody tipped him off, or that would have been, I don't know, number 457 this year, or whatever it is that we just live with it. Um, yeah, it would have been another one for us to thoughts and prayers and shrug and move on. Got to go to work tomorrow. I don't know. That's what lather, rinse, repeat. That's where we're at. And I wish I could sit with the I wish I could you know feel outraged about it, but we've already been through that so much. My synapses are burnt out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It is good to hear that he was actually stopped. That there's somebody actually doing the job of preventing these things that we come to think of as so commonplace in our society, which should not have ever gotten to this point. And speaking of things that certainly should not have happened and getting to this way and to this point in our societies, there has been a book written about the Epstein uh, Epstein Island and the abuse and the sort of things that were going out there. The young lady, Virginia, help me out with her last name, I'm afraid.
Guffrey.
Guffrey, Virginia Guffrey, who later on the tragedy of this whole thing is not only that it occurred, but that she ended up committing suicide. However, her book was she did write a book, and it has been released. At this point, it has stories about a number of people. We all want the unredacted version of the Epstein document to be released from the government. They have that, whatever it is they have. This is part of that. This is she names names. She has Prince Andrew. She has a half dozen other people's names in the book.
An unnamed
So,
prime minister as well, which I don't understand that.
too true. Yeah, I
I guess it's roundly believed to be Ehud Barak.
right, right. Actually, yeah, I did hear that report as well. So there's a number of the rich and famous and powerful, and yeah, I don't know why the name was not specified when Prince Edward was and when the others were. Um, but it is something as opposed to nothing.
Absolutely.
So it is something that should be acknowledged, and her suffering should be acknowledged and avenged, or possibly through the courts. Prince Edward, on release of the book, uh, has agreed to give up his titles, except for Prince, which I don't think is his decision. I think that they feel that being born into it, they can't take that title away, but they can take away the others. They've taken away Duke of York, and they've taken away his position in other status groups that he has been given throughout the years, and that's really the least that can be done. I mean, he did give millions of dollars to her, but you just outside of actually getting this guy in a jail, there's not much else that can be done. But they have been doing the things that they have been doing something.
Well,
Uh, with,
let me pause you right
but
there, if I may. What When you say outside of getting the guy in jail, why not jail? Are we comfortable with just not prosecuting people because they're super important? I mean, important to who? So,
Right.
what I don't, and I admit I'm ignorant of the subject on that end. Is there a reason he doesn't go to the slam?
No, actually, there really isn't, and that's my point. Is that I do agree with you. I do think jail time would do him certainly the minimum of what he has earned through his actions. But that's an issue and a problem in our society. The rich people get away with it, and he's going to get away with it. It's not because uh, not because people don't want him to have to pay a price, but because they're powerful people who don't want him to have to pay the price.
We couldn't
So
even keep Cosby in prison.
right, exactly.
What do you have to do? Yeah, you're convicted, but you're not convicted. Convicted. I mean, our president's convicted 34 times. That guy didn't miss a lunch. So, yeah, land of the free, home of the brave. All the criminals are free, and none of the
Yeah,
prosecutors are brave. I don't know.
yeah, right. The prosecutor. Too true, and that's horrible. And I don't, I don't know. I don't know what to do about that. And I certainly don't want him to get away with it. But
Yeah,
here we are.
indeed.
But speaking of Epstein and things that are undone,
Things that go
we
Trump in the night.
go Trump in the night. If you can throw that up there, the
Yep.
days since the unredacted Epstein list has not been released, we are at day 3,781,
And counting.
and we will continue to count up
And if
because
it
that
costs
number
us the house, so be it. If we can't reopen the entire government for it, so be it. Apparently, that's the world we're living in.
yeah, yeah. And so, here's another one of these guys is another guy who should be in jail for the things he's done, but that hasn't happened either. But um,
Well, on the good, on the other hand, Jelaine, it's just a matter of time before she's free. So look forward to that. That's just going to be yet another affront that we will, I guess, take. I don't know.
yeah, too true.
But I'm
Uh,
being cynical.
Cynical, but that's where we are. So thanks for joining us at PolitiPod Live for our political talk. And if you want to have a political laugh, you can join us for our monthly political comedy podcast at soundcloud.com/politipod. We bring up all these sorts of issues and have sketches, one-liners. And we also announce when upcoming elections are happening across the country, local elections. So please join in, hear what's happening, pass on word to your friends, and get everyone out to vote. And matter of fact, there's an election coming up for a lot of local elections across the country are happening November 4th. So that's coming up. You want to make certain you get out if your local uh, either elected officials or ballot questions are up. Please get out there and go vote.
Absolutely. Hey, do we have a email address we can share with folks if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, actually, yes. If you want to get in touch with us, please feel free to reach out. We are at politipod@gmail.com. Politipod. There we go. Thank you. PolitiPod at gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you on any of these and any political topics or the political humor stuff that Politipod does. And with that said, I'm Matt Nisanoff
And I'm Tom Bickle.
saying good night.
Good night.